Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Lettermen Row. I am Austin Ward, joined, as always, by my good friend Zach Boren, former Ohio State captain, linebacker, and defensive guru when we do these BuckIQs. Zach, it's been a week now that we've had to kind of think about what happened, 52-24. Talked about it a little bit on Letterman Live earlier this week, but this effort, I know that it had to not sit well with you.
No, it most definitely didn't. But I think at this point, you say a week ago, it almost feels like 2 years ago because I know I put it in the back of my head, and I know every other player wanted to put it in the back of their head. You know, Ryan Day after that game, I'm sure after talking to the locker room, talking to other guys, had the message that conveyed to everyone, hey, we're taking some time off. We need some deep breaths here. You know, we need to kind of reset and go. And I think that all came from kind of the way everyone felt after that game and after that season.
When he has talked about this, and lots of coaches talk about this, Zach, but, you know, you're going to look at personnel, you're going to look at scheme, and then you're going to look at fundamentals and the way that it's being coached. And usually you're going to find some element of all three. Was there something in particular that stood out to you in the title game?
You know what, I don't think anything in particular. I mean, the thing that we talked about earlier this week on Letterman Live, and especially as a former player in that situation, it's just the energy on the field, right? The leadership that kind of wasn't there. I think that's the thing that was the glaring hole during that game. It's you're playing the national championship game, once in a lifetime opportunity type of game. And early on in the game, you could just see kind of they were dead. They couldn't make that stop. No one was stepping up and saying, hey, the buck stops here. I'm going to turn the tide here, so to speak, right? And, I mean, I think that's the thing that stuck out. It's not fundamentals. Listen, it's a great team. You're the number 2 team in the cut, right? I mean, you're one of the top 2 teams in the country. You can't talk about fundamentals. You can't talk about any of those things at that point in the season. It's, listen, we need to show up and do what we do, play with some energy, and take care of business. And, you know, this isn't game 1, game 2 of the season where you're coming out of training camp and everyone's a little rusty with fundamentals and open field tackling and things like that. This is at the end of, yes, a weird season, but after multiple games, after, you know, clobbering Clemson in the Final Four game, this isn't about fundamentals and play calls and things like that. This is about stepping up, making a play, and being the difference maker.
And, you know, it was just an avalanche there in the first half, and I think maybe that's something that you have talked about in the past where some of the energy gets sapped out. Devontae Smith is making these big plays, and Ohio State doesn't look like they have any answer. And then it was like the air deflated. They were in a 14-14 game, had a chance to tie it at 21. They were right in it, trading punches, and then it's like, all right, well, maybe there's just no way we can stop them, and then everything kind of fell apart after that.
Yeah, it's kind of like a heavyweight battle, right? And we used to do this all the time as a team, and used to think about it as, you know, as leaderships, as at any point in any game, you're going to get a haymaker straight to the chin, right? Sometimes you're going to taste more blood than others. But guess what? At some point, you kind of need to, you know, hit your mouth, say, hey, I got some blood on it. It's time for me to start fighting back. And that's what we didn't see last Monday night. And I think as a former player, I think as a coaching staff, you know, even some of those players looking back on that game, I think that's what the sour taste is in their mouth. It's that, hey, we were getting punches thrown at us. We were throwing some back. But at the end of the day, they threw harder. They tasted blood. And, yeah, I mean, when we were hammering them, guess what? They came back and fought even harder. And once we got up in the corner, it's kind of like, you know, I played with a guy named Christian Bryant who was a safety, and him and I used to laugh all the time in the middle of a game because as the team's driving on you, after a team scores and they're sitting there, you know, talking their trash and doing what they got to do, you kind of laugh and say, you know what, you've got no idea what's coming for you next. We're going to come back and throw a punch even harder that's going to knock you out. And I think Alabama did that last Monday night. And normally 99.9% of the time, that's Ohio State. That's the culture that Ohio State's built. And so that, I think, was the most surprising thing, is that when punches were being thrown at them, Ohio State's been so great at answering those punches and throwing back even harder, and that did not happen.
Yeah, and then Alabama was doing it with the Heisman Trophy winner. I think that's maybe what caught some people by surprise, but it also goes to your point. He's a hell of a player, so even if you had a perfect plan, you still were going to have to execute at a high level. Ohio State didn't do that. Zach's going to take a closer look at how that happened during that explosion for Devontae Smith. BuckIQ, looking at the title game. Let's roll the tape. All right, Zach, one thing that Ohio State saw a lot of here against Alabama, shifts and motions and running Devontae Smith all over the field. And obviously that puts a lot of stress on defenders even pre-snap. That's what Alabama wanted, and they got a bunch of success that way.
They did, and Steve Sarkisian was so smart, right? As a defense, especially inside the 10-yard line, you're not playing much zone coverage. It's a lot of man-to-man. It's, hey, let's match up. The offense doesn't have much space, but Alabama was so good with putting Devontae Smith in motion, trying to disguise certain things, and that defense is just confused. As you see, Sevyn Banks is lined up on Devontae Smith right now. He sees the orbit motion with Devontae Smith going around. He takes off. His eyes aren't even anywhere on Devontae Smith. Has no idea what he's doing. Devontae Smith does the fake orbit, comes back around. Josh Proctor's in such a hard position. He doesn't, this really isn't his guy, and he's having to play off this and try and beat Devontae Smith to the corner. And Devontae Smith, let's be honest, is the Heisman Trophy winner, is super quick, super fast, great in space. And look at this. Josh Proctor's already outflanked. You're not going to get that guy and take the pursuit angle and get him to the pylon. Devontae Smith has an easy touchdown there, but it's all with your eye. Sevyn Banks takes off right away, and it's not what he's supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, are you trying to rely on a scouting report if you're Sevyn Banks here? I know we can't put ourselves in the shoes. We don't know the exact play call, but, I mean, Devontae Smith never even got halfway across the formation, and Sevyn Banks looks like he's just sprinting to the sideline.
Yeah, he is. And, this could have been a tendency that they talked about, but at the end of the day, you can't base everything off of tendencies, especially a big game, especially a national championship game. What are coaches going to do? They're going to make up game plans to go against their tendencies. We talk about this all the time in meetings and game plans. It's, hey, we self-scout ourselves, so we know what we normally do a certain percentage of the time. And in big games and big situations, we're going to go against our tendencies. As a defense, you have to realize that they're going to throw little gimmicks in there to go away from what they normally do. And this is a great gimmick. This is something that the fake orbit motion, bringing Devontae Smith back around, we saw them do this all night long. And just Ohio State was so bad with their eyes and reacting, they just didn't see it coming.
It's also a concept we've seen Ryan Day use a few times. I know KJ Hill seemed like he was an automatic touchdown 2 years ago using some of these same techniques. And here you go again, just moving him across the formation and challenging Sevyn Banks even before the snap.
Yeah, if you rewind it, this is something that so many teams will do, and especially to make it easy on a quarterback. When you put a guy in motion, right, especially we talked about so many people are in man coverage down on a goal line, right, inside the 10-yard line. You see Sevyn Banks following Devontae Smith. This is essentially, as a defense, when you're supposed to be yelling and communicating, this tells the quarterback what they're playing. Hey, this is man defense. I got a guy following Devontae Smith. I know this is man. This is what I have right now. I know where my read is going to be. I know Devontae is going to be open. Roll, get the ball out of my hands and go. As a defense, you have to be communicating. When you see this type of motion, and this wasn't the first time they showed motion. They were doing different things with it. As a defense, Sevyn Banks should have been yelling. Pete Warner maybe in this position should have flanked out a little bit wider. There's so many things that from a defensive communication standpoint that, hey, you're looking at things you should be doing, and you can say that now, but Sevyn Banks should have been yelling that motion, coming back across. There should have been something that they could have done, or at least checked to, or at least cheated the situation a little bit to not let Devontae Smith outflank them so quickly. And once Devontae Smith outflanks you, he's going to score a touchdown. He's going to be successful. That's what he did all year long. It's the reason why he was the Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, it's over right there. As soon as he touches the football at the 6, there's no shot. Ohio State struggled with that. And then there was a much bigger one, his third touchdown that's coming up here after we get through this one again. A lot of people talking about that, which is where the questions of how much was this third touchdown for Devontae Smith, how much was it scheme? People poking fun at Tough Borland. I think for me, and I don't have your expertise, I don't know how you can expect Tough Borland to ever win a matchup against Devontae Smith, but the same is probably true for every middle linebacker in the country.
I agree. And if you run this back a little bit, I want everyone to look at this, right? You're the middle linebacker. You're playing 5 yards off the football, okay? And in this situation, it's run or pass. You got to get your read and react, right? At this point, Devontae Smith is number 3 on the inside, number 3 receiver. He is untouched coming off the line at a full-on sprint, and you're the middle linebacker. You've got to take that read step that you see Tough Borland take right there, which is downhill. Take the read step, and then read and react. He sees pass. He's obviously starting the backpedal. Devontae Smith is on him right now. Look at that. You pause that. Devontae Smith is already shoulder to shoulder with Tough Borland. Do you expect any middle linebacker in the country at that point, once you're shoulder to shoulder with Devontae Smith, even with him, to be able to turn and run with him? Corners can't do that. Safeties can't do that. How can a middle linebacker be able to do that? Here's the problem, is that Devontae Smith back in the slot, if you run this back and see the matchup, or you can keep on going and go to the end zone view. That works as well. When you take this, I want everyone to look. With Devontae Smith as number 3, you should have been yelling, he's in the slot, he's in the slot. He has like a yellow helmet on, right? You should know where he's at all times. You guys should be yelling, hey, something's up. 3-by-1, he's in the slot. What do you think we need to do? That's right. We need to get hands on him. We need to be able to check him off the line, slow him down some way. And you see Baron Browning right here on the inside shoulder of Devontae Smith lined up. He can't bail right away. There is no threat to his outside right now. He's actually got 2 defenders on the outside of him. He cannot bail and get to this hook to curl. He's got to sit on Devontae Smith, reroute him as much as he can, get in his way to slow him down. Instead, he bails to the hook to curl. Nothing is. And Devontae Smith is left running down the middle of the field, and Tough Borland's got to turn and run on him. This is next to impossible. As a defense, there are so many things wrong right here. The first one starts with communication, and even with Devontae Smith in 3-by-1, Baron Browning should have been thinking to himself, I can't cheat out. I need to sit on his inside and reroute him as much as possible, especially with a straight down the field stem by Devontae Smith.
Yeah, it's hard to know really what all to say about it. I mean, is the Heisman Trophy winner running free down the middle of the field?
If you pause it right here, this is the Heisman Trophy winner running straight down the middle of the field. Right now, if you look where Baron Browning is from the 2021 logo to the left, there's 3 Ohio State defenders on 2. And it's not Devontae Smith that's out there. Devontae Smith is running down the middle of the field with Tough Borland on him. Like, come on, guys. Like, that just tells me that they weren't communicating. That when you get to a point, it's like, hey, I realize that's my responsibility, but maybe the Heisman Trophy winner I need to give a little bit more attention to, and I shouldn't bail and help out my DB so much on 2 guys who aren't blowing us up all game long. Maybe I should sit on them, try and reroute them, knowing that, my middle linebacker next to me's got to carry number 3 down the middle of the field. Maybe I should sit on him a little bit longer before bailing. And that's just communication stuff. That's just knowing what's in front of you. Seeing that, hey, Devontae Smith's at number 3 instead of the 1 or the 2 where he's normally at. It's just knowing what is being done. And Stark did a great job all game long by giving them different looks. But as a defense, you have to be able to recognize these things.
When you look at Marcus Williamson, and he's obviously playing a little bit out of position. He is not a deep safety. He's a normal cornerback. He was at his best when he was playing maybe some slot corner. Maybe not would have been doing that if Ohio State had been at full strength in the secondary all year. This part right here, I see him turn and go this way. I don't see the threat on that side of the field. I don't know if it's coached that way, if it was just reading it the wrong way. I mean, Devontae Smith is running straight at him.
Yeah,
if he turns his hips maybe the other way, and I don't know how it's taught, maybe he has a shot to at least cut this ball off or maybe make a play over here.
Yeah, if you pause that right with him if you pause this right here, it almost looks like a cover 3 look, right? You got guys going into the flats, you got guys hooked to curl, right? It looks like some kind of version of some kind of cover 3, especially you see Sevyn Banks bailing on the outside. You see Sean Wade playing and kind of bailing with the wide receiver on the right-hand side. You got the free safety going to the middle of the field. The issue is Marcus Williamson should know, hey, I got corners on the outside that are bailing with me, and they're playing everything in front of them, which we saw all game long. The one place where I've got to give help is Devontae Smith running down the middle of the field. Like, to your point, I don't understand why he's turning this way. Mac Jones doesn't do anything to make him turn that way, nor is there any kind of threat to that side of the field. I mean, Sevyn Banks is over top of that wide receiver. He's actually doing some kind of dig route, it looks like, on the outside. There's only one vertical route right here, and Marcus Williamson needs to see that and recognize it. Marcus Williamson should have seen that number 3 running straight down the middle of the field, and that's where his help should have been, over top of Tough Borland. Like, everyone wants to point the finger at Tough Borland, but there are just guys on the defense that are not setting him up to succeed. If Baron Browning reroutes him here, that helps out a lot. If Marcus Williamson doesn't bail to the middle of the field because there's only one vertical threat, and it's the guy at number 3, and he's playing over top of Devontae Smith, as Tough Borland's probably doing what he's supposed to be doing and playing underneath him, this play doesn't go anywhere, and possibly Marcus Williamson could come make a pick, right? I mean, there's so many things that are wrong with this play from a defensive standpoint, and you hit the nail on the head. There is nothing that Marcus Williamson should be – there's nothing telling Marcus Williams to bail to his right side, going to the middle of the field when there's no vertical presence on that side.
Lots for Ohio State to dig into, Zach. We're going to have a lot of BuckIQs coming in a busy offseason, but as the Buckeyes get ready, it's spring ball, a couple months away now, 6 or 7 weeks. We'll see what they actually get to do. That secondary, they finished number 122 in the country against the pass. That can't happen at Ohio State. A lot of work for Kerry Coombs and that group to do. Zach will keep breaking it down for us and point out what they need to correct, getting it going so as Ohio State can regroup and get back for another run to the college football playoff next year. For Zach, I'm Austin Ward. This has been Lettermen Row BuckIQ. We'll see you next time.